In this video, we'll look at how to replace the clutch on a 735 propane machine. Note this work should be done by experienced mechanics only and in a shop environment. The tools you're going to need will include a 19mm wrench, a 9/16 wrench, 5/16 wrench, 19mm socket, a 7/16 socket, a 1/2" socket, an extension, a 5mm hex, a Phillips screwdriver, an impact driver, side cutters, and dikes. We'll start by removing the battery terminals. Next, we want to disconnect all the wires, hoses, and the throttle cable. Be sure to mark everything so that you know how to put it back. Remove the fuel line from the regulator. Next, we'll remove the water tank. This makes it easier to pull the motor. Now we're going to remove the upper belt cover so we have access to the upper belt. Now we can remove the engine bolts. There's 2 in the back and 2 in the front. Now that the engine is loose, we can remove the upper belt. With 2 men, the engine should lift off easily. Tools you need to remove the clutch are a 5/8 socket, a 3/16 hex, vice grips, rubber mallet, and an impact driver. Remove the clutch. Using the vice grips, remove the crankshaft key and the old spacer and washer. Using the blue Loctite, install the shaft collar. This also acts as a spacer for the new clutch. Tighten it securely. Reinstall the crankshaft key and tap it into place using the rubber mallet. Carefully align the notch on the clutch with the shaft alignment pin and press the clutch into place. Using the blue Loctite, set the outside spacer and tighten it securely. Now install the bolt on the end of the shaft to secure the clutch. Now we can set the motor back in place. Set the upper belt so that it wraps around the drive shaft and securely on the clutch. Tighten the engine bolts. Replace the upper belt cover. Loosen the exhaust manifold bolts so that we can remove the exhaust. We need to remove the exhaust to install the new throttle cable. The hole in the throttle body needs to be enlarged to accept the new throttle cable. Now we need to cut the new throttle cable to the proper length. First, we trim the external sleeve and thread the new throttle cable into it. Attach the control assembly so that we get the length correct. And now, using the old throttle cable as a reference, we can cut the new throttle cable to the proper length. Next thing you want to do is put a Z-bend into the new throttle cable so we can securely connect to the throttle body. Now we can install the new throttle control into the existing mount. Tighten it securely. Install the throttle cable into the throttle control. Now we can take the Z-bend and attach it to the throttle body and secure the cable through the sleeve. Now we can reinstall the exhaust. Tighten the bolts on the manifold. Now we reconnect the wiring that we took off in the beginning. Reconnect the battery terminals and secure the battery in place. If you drained the motor oil before you started, you want to make sure to replace it. Let's check the oil level to make sure it's properly filled. Now we replace the water tank. Reinstall the propane tank and connect the fuel line. Make sure it's secure. And now we can test the machine.